So this is a topic about video game preservation and how the courts are ruling in a very positive light for us. So
Right.
we're gonna get into this and we're gonna cover this as best as possible.
There's a
And
lot
by
of
that I
legalese in here.
oh, there's so much. This is one of those things that I feel like most people would fall asleep through. But we're going to try to get through this. Please bear with me. I'm very bad at doing this stuff on the fly. So I'm just going to start by reading off parts of this article.
Hmm.
So there was a new ruling from the Library of Congress that is good news for video game preservation, and an 85-page ruling that covered everything from electronic aircraft controls to farming equipment diagnostic software.
I like how there's
The,
a hyperlink on that part of the...
yeah, well, yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
go on.
You know how it is. The Library of Congress carved out fair use exemptions to the Digital Millennial Copyright Act, the DMCA, for video games and software in general. Now, the Digital Millennial Copyright Act, I heard of it. I tell you what it was about, but I decided to wiki it really, really quick.
Hmm.
So, the DMCA is a 1998 U.S. copyright law that implements two 96 treaties in the World Intelligence Property Organization. It criminalizes production and dissemination of technology, devices, or services intended to circumvent measurements that control access to copyright works, commonly known as digital rights management or DRM.
Huh.
Take that as you read it, because I mean, basically, it it makes it so. Like I said, you're gonna have to bear with me. This was
It's
so on the
okay.
fly.
It's already gone way over my head, so...
Yeah, but basically, what it sounds like is that under this copyright law,
Hmm.
it's illegal to take like the production of technology and devices or services and use it to kind of like do what you want with it. So I guess what this would refer to on our end for like video games would be like people who make like servers of games for like the
Hmm.
servers that they're down, they got taken down
Right.
forever, like for whatever reason. Whether the game just kind of they stopped supporting it, it was stopped supported by the company.
Right.
People who can go and they're very tech savvy can go and make up their own private servers and throw them up and make it so you can still play these games with other people. It's not necessarily a legal tactic if I'm thinking about this correctly. So that's
If you
pretty
know
much.
better, please comment down below.
Yeah, please, for fuck's sake, I am very bad at
I
this.
would love to
Like it's
hear more.
I would love people to be like, you're a fucking idiot. And I'd be like, you'd be right in this case. I don't know about this stuff. I read the article, the title of this article, and I was like, this sounds like good, important news, and I felt like we should cover it. More importantly, I just wanted to get this article out here because this article is not bad just because I am very illiterate at reading into what all of this means.
Right.
But we're going to scroll down a little bit. These rules are definitely good news. This is me reading the article here. Are definitely good news for single player games. The big change for single player games happened during the last DMCA review process of 2015 when the Copyright Office decided that museums and archives could break the online authentication for single player titles that were just phoning home to a server for copyright protection reasons. Phil Salvador, a Washington, D.C. area librarian and archivist who runs the Obscuratory?
Obscuratory?
Yeah, Obscuratory, a site that focuses on discussing and preserving obscure old games told motherboard. So that was a handful, but basically Phil Salvador, who's a act, he's
Hmm.
an activist who runs this obscure. God, the Obscuratory basically said that to Motherboard, the website.
Right.
So that 2015 ruling was due to expire this year, but thanks to pressure from activists, it was renewed today instead, which is great. I think that's awesome. I mean, there's a lot of people who are very concerned about the preservation of these games and what's going to happen to them, especially the ones where, all your old NES carts aren't going to be working in 10, 15 years or however.
Yes, hello, I am here.
Yep.
God, what happens to Suikoden with the disc rot?
Yeah, right. Yeah. We got to preserve these games, but we want to do it in the most legal way possible so they don't get taken away from us.
For sure.
To throw in another quote right here, I'm trying to find out who the original... I'm guessing it's Kendra Elbert said this. 2015 rules cracked the door open for many things, but the exemptions that were granted here are potentially much, much broader. So this is... Yeah. Again, take that as you will. Keep going to the next paragraph, though. Today's news should be good for activists and museums who've long struggled with the best way to preserve video games such as EverQuest or World of Warcraft, which is the part of this that made me understand this the most.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, World of Warcraft is probably still one of the biggest games next to Fortnite for different reasons.
Right.
If you were to hop on Twitch, I'm sure it's still in the top 5 most streamed games on Twitch, just to give you an example. Games like World of Warcraft eventually will stop getting supported. Their servers will go down.
Mm-hmm.
People will stop playing the game.
Yep.
These laws are going to make it so that at the very least, on a private server, a museum or an archive could at least host games on these servers to make it so you could still play these games.
Right.
Now, the issue arises that you're not going to be able to be at home and play these games at all times like you would now. It's something where if you went to the museum, they might have a computer available, I don't know, behind some plexiglass,
right,
where you could walk in there and just play Warcraft and experience it again for whatever allotted time is how I imagine it would go.
Yeah, just a quick Google search tells me that World of Warcraft is the 11th most played game on Twitch currently.
Thanks, dude.
At time of recording.
God. Whatever.
I just wanted to see, all right?
It's literally when I ask people, "Oh, do you play video games?" and they're not like me, and by that I mean not crazy, and
they don't play old consoles.
They don't play old consoles. They don't play the old stuff. They don't collect.
They don't play your Nintenders.
They just play games, bruh. It's usually Fortnite, Call of Duty, or World of Warcraft.
But those are games.
Those are the 3 that come to mind. There's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah. Just
because I don't play them doesn't make them better or worse than any games that I do play.
I agree.
They're not my thing. That's all.
I am with you.
Okay. To keep going here, multiplayer games like these both require software that players run on their computers locally. Software is running on a company server, software that is much harder for historians to get their hands on and run. And when they do manage to get an independent server running, big game companies like Blizzard have taken legal action against people running unauthorized servers. And that's ultimately where the preservation really comes in and where this is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Companies are not going to be able to take legal action against them when they're doing it for the sake of preservation. I don't think it's come up so far in what we've read in the article, but it does eventually come up. That is basically what this article is getting at, is that as long as you are doing this stuff in the act of preserving a game, it's legal. if I'm getting that correctly, and if anyone
Mm-hmm.
thinks I'm wrong or if I'm reading it wrong, please let me know. The last thing I want to do is spread false
I think
information.
as
But
long as
that
it's a
is
single player game, the next paragraph reads that the rules will be disappointing for average users who had hoped to get abandoned multiplayer games up and running again just for fun.
well, that's the point though,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I was talking about, the whole plexiglass thing.
Right.
The idea is that they'll be able to have a server in that building, pretty much.
Right.
The only people that will be playing on this server are people who go to maybe the said museum or the archive, and they play the game on site. So it's still technically like local multiplayer, despite it being on the internet and being on the server.
Right.
I don't, like I said, I don't see people from home being able to access this server off of the site of where this is being held.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they were getting at.
I think the biggest thing to note in this article is, we could try to read the rest of it, but Jesus, it's really long. Is that this is this is by no means saying that emulation is legal.
No. That's not what they're. And again, if it's for the sake of preservation, it's
right.
different.
Yeah,
it's different than for just doing it willy nilly.
Yeah.
So I think that's ultimately what the article's been reading. There's a lot more in here though, and this article is just very interesting.
Yeah.
Just wish I had more time to read it. Like I said, this came out yesterday, and I was just reading it, like I said, 4 or 5 hours ago from now. So there's just a lot here. Please check this out. I think this is amazing. Yeah. The whole idea of video game preservation is a big thing for me.
It's really important.
It is. It's extremely important.
Very important. Somewhere down the line, like you said, we're just not going to be able to play those old games on cartridges anymore. And
no.
That's the biggest thing I'm worried about in terms of like gaming's future. Is like, it's more so about the games of today than it is the games of yesteryear. Where I'm not going to talk too much into this because I'm writing a script for a video I'm going to put on my personal channel at first, and if we decide we want to put it on the quality control stuff, then we will. But I have a feeling that in 10 years or 12, 15 years, however long it takes, eventually those servers are going to go down for games like Call of Duty Black Ops 4 that just came out.
Certainly.
That game dies. Like, literally dies the moment that happens.
And I could sit here and blame the Call of Duty for that.
Even
it's just...
going off of like Call of Duty, games like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game is gone. Unless you bought it when it came out, you can't play that game anymore legally.
Just think about PT too.
PT is gone. Yeah. There's a bunch of games that are just gone. You can't do anything about it. And it's like, think about Red Dead, think about God of War, think about Spider-Man. They need updates. You can't just put a disc in and go. Like, it's different.
That's why I like the olden days.
Yeah,
it's just on a disc or on a cart or whatever.
There are dangers to the way gaming is today, but there's also great things that can happen and have happened in gaming today. So I feel like today it's all about efficiency, and I feel like they're just trying to phase out the physical copy of a game, because it's much easier to produce a game and then just have people download it via Wi-Fi and the internet. It's much, much harder to preserve a game without a physical copy.
Exactly, which is why I love my physical copies. I'll take them all day long.
So yeah,
that does not mean that I don't like a digital game, because being able to grab a game at the tap of a button on my computer sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But oh man, do I love like looking through the manuals of a game. Do I love holding the disc and putting it in my system and knowing that my entire game is on there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm an old man. What can I say?
But yeah, I don't have a lot more to say on this.
I mean, the only other thing I'll say, side note, mentioning PT. If you want a great game that very, 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 very similar to PT, go check out Visage. That's a very fun horror game that literally looks like it pulls elements of PT out of it, and it's pretty great.
Very, very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, I don't really have much else. But again, please read this article. This is very important stuff for video game preservation, and I think a lot more people need to take it seriously.
Question of the segment, everybody. Do you believe game preservation is important in today's day and age?
If so or not, give us your reasons down below.
Please, please.